sincere, be brief, be seated. That is a quote from Franklin D. Roosevelt. And that's exactly what I'm going to do in this training session today. I'm going to teach you how to write and present a speech in 5 to 7 minutes. First of all, let's talk about the objectives of my presentation. First of all, you're going to learn some basic elements of speech writing, which is going to include how to do an opening, body, and a conclusion. You're also going to learn how to organize your speech effectively. And lastly, you're going to learn how to present the speech. So first of all, when you're getting ready to write a speech, the first thing that you want to do is you need to have a topic. So how do you come up with a topic? There's a lot of different ways that you can come up with a topic. First of all, personal experiences. Could be a family vacation. It could be maybe one of your favorite hobbies. It could be something about your career. It could be an event that you had with your friends. So that's one of the ways you can come up with topics. Another way is reference materials. You might want to use, maybe you read a great book and you wanted to share that. Or maybe you read an article in a magazine that you really enjoyed. Could be something on a website. Current events are also a great way to get topics because most people would be familiar with those current events. So once you have your topic prepared, then the next thing that you want to do is you need to put your speech together. And there are 3 parts to a speech, as we said, an opening, a body, and a conclusion. And sometimes you don't have to necessarily write those in that order. Personally, I prefer to always write the body of the speech, but you can choose which way you want to go with that. And what we like to say in Toastmasters, when you think about these three parts of a speech, the intro is tell them what you're going to tell them, your body is tell them, and your conclusion is tell them what you've told them. And that's just an easy way to remember that. So let's start out in chronological order with the opening of a speech. When you open a speech up, you want to make sure that there's some elements that you want to include in your opening. First of all, you really want to make sure that you're capturing your audience's attention. This is also a really good time to build rapport with your audience, as well as showing them that you're an expert on this topic. For example, today I am doing a speech on how to prepare a speech, and I've been a Toastmaster for 10 years, so I feel I'm an expert in this area to share. So when you start the opening, there are some things that you can do to make sure you encompass all the elements I just talked about. One of the ways that you can open a speech is the same exact way I just did today, is I used a quote. A quote is a great way to get your audience's attention. Another thing you could do is you could do statistics. Maybe you're going to do a speech on Democrats versus Republicans, and you can use statistics in that. A rhetorical question is always a great way to capture everybody's attention. You ask a question at the beginning of your speech, and sometimes you can even get your audience to reply to that. You can use a startling statement, just really anything that you know that's going to grab everybody's attention and start building rapport with your audience. The next thing you want to do, which is probably the most difficult part of the speech, is putting your body together. That is the middle of your speech. That's the tell them portion of your speech. And a great way that you could go about this is to do a mind map. So what I would recommend, for example, if I am going to write a speech on running, because that's what I do for a living and it's of course one of my hobbies, then what I would do is this is my topic. And what is my speech going to be about running? Maybe I want to teach people that this is something everybody should do. So some things I could do about running might be talk about the shoes, talk about training, why, benefits of running. There could be just a bunch of different things that I could talk about in a speech on running. However, one thing that you want to make sure you don't do is you don't want to put in 20 objectives in a speech, especially if you have 5 to 7 minutes. So really a good rule of thumb is to pick 3 things. So if I want to convince people the benefits of running or why they should run, then I probably would pick the why, I might pick the benefits, and just pick three major topics to write your speech, and then you might write 1 to 3 statements about those 3 topics. And again, you just want to be careful that you don't add too much, because if you do a speech and you put too many statements in there, people get confused. And you can put them in an order that makes sense as you are writing the speech. Lastly, your conclusion is a very important part of your speech. In your conclusion, very similar to the introduction, when you are concluding a speech, you really want to make sure you get your audience's attention and that they really understood what the purpose of your speech was. So as I talked about in the introduction, you might do a quote, you might end your speech with a quote, you might end it with a startling fact. Sometimes you could use words that might let the audience know that you're getting ready to conclude, like in conclusion, or let me end by saying. So you could use those types of words to conclude your speech and then add a quote or a startling fact. And that's how you would conclude your speech. Now it's time to present your speech. So you want to consider, what are you going to do to practice your speech? First of all, know where you're going to be delivering your speech and be very aware of the surroundings and the equipment that you might need to deliver your speech. Also, when you are practicing, a couple of things you want to think about is you want to practice ideas, not words. Memorizing a speech can be very daunting, and I would not recommend doing that. So just kind of think of what your topics are and use those as the ideas that you're going to present to your audience. When you are practicing, I recommend practicing in front of maybe family and friends. They will give you some feedback, and as you get that feedback from them, just make sure to add those pieces gradually as you continue to work on building your speech. And lastly, what you want to do is you want to present your speech to your club or wherever you may be presenting your speech. So with that said, I had 5 to 7 minutes to teach you how to write a speech, and the objectives are already here. So in conclusion, I hope that I've met all these objectives so that you now can go back to your desk. And here's my call to action, which is one of my favorite ways to end a speech, is hopefully now you're very excited about writing your own speech and you're going to go ahead and present it to your club or wherever you may go present.